Hello and welcome. The pyramids of Giza have baffled scientists and researchers for many centuries, especially the Great Pyramid. The Pyramid of Khufu is made up of 2,300,000 blocks, with each block being so heavy that one block weighs over a ton. Additionally, the pyramid's height is quite significant at around 150 meters. Most of us aren't fans of numbers, but these figures are truly astonishing. How did these extraordinary ancient Egyptians manage to lift such heavy stones to such great heights? This task is challenging even with today's technology and construction methods. How did these people over 4,000 years ago build this enormous structure without any modern tools or machinery? All they had were some simple metal tools and a few pieces of wood. And the strangest part is how they managed to fit the pyramid stones together so precisely without any cement or adhesive materials. The answer to this question is one of two things. Either these people were incredibly clever, or they discovered a specific construction method that didn't require any modern technology or sophisticated tools. A method so simple that it hasn't occurred to anyone yet. Welcome, I'm Bill, and in this episode of Curious Corner, the question of how the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids has sparked numerous theories, some of which are completely rejected, others accepted, and some are somewhat amusing. For instance, one hypothesis suggests that aliens built the pyramids. Yes, you heard that right. While this idea might seem laughable to some, there are actual studies and research on the topic, and a significant number of people firmly believe that aliens built the pyramids. Of course, this idea is utterly illogical and remains just a hypothesis. Another bizarre notion that some people hold is that the ancient Egyptians were giants, with enormous bodies, akin to the giants in Attack on Titan. Thus, such giants could easily lift stones with their hands, move them around, and build the pyramid effortlessly. They might have even thrown the stones to each other. But again, this is not true. The ancient Egyptians were not giants. They were of average height, as evidenced by their mummified bodies found in museums. Moreover, the coffins found in tombs and museums and even inside the pyramids are of normal sizes, not enormous. Therefore, the Egyptians had average-sized bodies just like us, minus the belly. The traditional story about how the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids, the one we were told as kids, is that they transported these stones from southern Egypt to the current pyramid site. They moved 2.3 million stones weighing tons over this massive distance, built a massive earthen ramp around the pyramid, and then rolled these huge stones up on wooden rollers, pulling them with ropes using oxen and workers. And bam, the pyramids were built. The traditional story goes that the ancient Egyptians built a massive earthen ramp and then rolled these huge stones up using wooden rollers and pulled them with ropes via oxen and workers, and voila, they built the pyramids. This earthen ramp must have been reinforced with concrete because a dirt ramp alone couldn't bear the weight of 70 tons moving on it. It would simply collapse. Also, the wooden rollers couldn't bear such loads either. They'd need at least steel wheels of great strength. Considering we're talking about 70 tons here, the method involving wooden rollers and dirt ramps doesn't make sense. Even if we assumed they used this method, the size of the ramp would have to be 10 times larger than the pyramid itself. And some scholars say that constructing this massive earthen ramp and the extensive pathways around the pyramid, and then removing them afterward without leaving any trace, would be an achievement greater than the pyramid itself. Scientifically, it's impossible to remove the ramp and these massive pathways without leaving any trace, and to date, we haven't found any trace of them. This makes the whole story quite implausible. Some recent hypotheses attempt to support the previous theory by suggesting that researchers believe the Egyptians might have sprinkled water on the stones while pulling them over the wooden rollers. This would ease the movement of the rollers, reducing the force needed to move the stones by half. As for how the ancient Egyptians transported 2.3 million huge stones from southern Egypt to the current site in Giza. Researchers believe the desert area where the pyramid is located used to be a river area with multiple branches of the Nile River, allowing them to transport the stones via water. But still, all these are attempts to justify the previous method. And even with all this, the method remains highly illogical and raises many questions that have no answers. The main question is, how did they lift these massive stones to such great heights without any cranes, airplanes, or modern equipment? Unfortunately, no one has answered that. Did the ancient Egyptians have a device that could cancel gravity in a specific area, allowing them to lift the stones easily, and then a pharaoh would float to the top and place the stone in its position? Sadly, there's no evidence for that either. Let's quickly move to another point. How did they fit the pyramid stones together without using cement? The explanation given to us when we were young was that they fitted the stones together using something called air evacuation, which means they placed two stones on top of each other and somehow evacuated the air molecules between the stones, causing the stones to stick together as if there were adhesive material between them. But again, there's no evidence for this. It's just speculation, because air evacuation itself requires advanced technology. One of the most amazing things about the pyramids is how they made the stone surfaces so precisely smooth. The pyramid stones are shaped like cubes and rectangular parallelizes with precise shapes, and supposedly these cubes were carved. Imagine doing such carving with primitive tools. It seems like an almost suicidal task. Leveling the surfaces of 2.3 million stones would require enormous effort and an extraordinary workforce. Hence, the idea of carving the stones is also quite illogical. Therefore, almost all the methods and hypotheses we've heard so far have no basis in truth. So, bye. Wait, bro, I'm just kidding. How would you react if I told you that the stone blocks from which the pyramid was built were poured in place like we pour ordinary concrete, and that these stones weren't carved at all? This idea was proposed by the Swiss researcher von Daniken and the French Joseph Davidovits. Both of them suggested that the ancient Egyptians knew how to create a specific mixture that forms an artificial stone harder than the concrete we use today. This mixture consisted of clay and some chemicals that were heated, and when the mixture dried, it looked exactly like natural stone and could last for thousands of years. By using this simple hypothesis, we can solve all the problems we encountered with the previous theories. We wouldn't need to cut and carve stones with high precision. We wouldn't need to transport stones over enormous distances. And we wouldn't need to lift the stones to such great heights. It's a very intriguing idea. So, how did these researchers come up with this theory, and where did it start? It began with a group of scientists searching for a secret chamber inside the pyramid. They scanned the entire pyramid with different types of rays, and suddenly noticed that their devices were giving conflicting and illogical results, despite the devices being in perfect working condition. The only explanation was that the pyramid stones contained a large amount of water. Scientifically, such a large amount of water cannot exist in natural stones, leading them to believe the stones were artificial or man-made. Later, Joseph conducted an experiment trying to create a mixture similar to the one used by the ancient Egyptians, and his experiment was successful, yielding positive results. He managed to create stones of the same sizes, and these stones stuck together perfectly. Currently, researchers are trying to identify the exact composition of the mixture used by the ancient Egyptians and believe that this mixture was one of many secrets the ancient Egyptians knew, just like their knowledge in astronomy, chemistry, and mummification. In summary, the pyramid stones were likely made of a material similar to liquid cement, poured into rectangular molds, and when they dried, they became solid and uniform stones. This method might have been used not only for the pyramids, but also for other large structures like temples and obelisks. Therefore, they didn't lift or move stones, they poured them in place within molds. We're not saying this hypothesis is definitively how the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids, but it's a much more logical and accepted theory. There may be another theory in the future that explains the matter even more clearly. Finally, no one can deny that the ancient Egyptians reached a level of knowledge in some fields that we haven't achieved to this day, despite our modern technology and advancements. Here we end our episode. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of our midnight musings. Drop your late-night questions in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share it with fellow curious minds. Until next time, keep wondering, and I'll see you in the next episode of Curious Corner. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with ancient mysteries and modern marvels.